Hello, everybody. Sunday, Everrose Raymond 360. Tom Caltabiano here, writer on Everrose Raymond, talking all things everybody loves a Raymond. I'm very excited about today. Our special guest, Jon Manfrellotti, will be joining soon. Oh, no sound. Interesting. Hold on. Do we have sound now, everybody? Hello? Oh, Karen, see that? Okay. Hello, Norway. Hello, Karen in England. Hello, Karen in England. Hello, Leo in Toronto. How am I sounding, everybody? Everybody can hear me okay. Hello, Susan Van Allen. That's okay, Karen. We all make mistakes. If we didn't make mistakes, we would not have a show. Hello, Annabelle. Annabelle, we need to talk about your visit to the set of Everybody Loves Raymond. I don't know how many times you were on the set, but I have some great photos of you. Hello, Gil in London. Wait, Gil, are you in London? Sorry. You know, I love the UK. Hello, Holland, Michigan. Holland, Michigan. Is that home of Herman Miller Furniture? Is that there? I visited the Herman Miller Furniture store. Kendi. Oh, yes, you're here for Johnny. So is everybody else. Hello, also in the UK. Hello, Australia, early in the morning. Hello, Long Island, which is, I believe, where Jon Manfrellotti is from. Hello. These are a lot of hellos. John is more popular than even people thought. All right. Where's Ray, Robert, and Deborah? Yeah, I would have to find out. Let me turn my sound up just a hair. There we go. Okay. Johnny. Oh, John is here. Okay. Let me bring John in. Again, this is Tom Caltabiano as a writer on Everrose Raymond, and we're going to talk to our friend Jon Manfrellotti, who played. See? Hello. Wow, nice. John, come on.
Oh, I want a puppy for Christmas. Oh, hey. Hello there.
So, John.
Yes, sir.
You're going to have to come back a couple of times, and I want to apologize in advance because I know you didn't want to come on one time.
Yeah, and I'm busy. I got to be somewhere in December. So
Oh.
I have to work this out.
Okay, we'll expedite this. So, John, only because looking good. Karen saying looking good. Oh no, Karen said, "Hey, hello." I don't want to say the wrong compliment.
Karen, hello.
Karen in Plymouth, England said looking good.
My God, I used to drive to Plymouth.
So
only the Americans get that.
Yeah, Plymouth is an old. I'll translate as many of your jokes as I can.
Tom, I can't tell you how excited I am to be on your show.
I can't tell if that's sarcasm or not, John, but I'll take it as.
I can't tell you that. I'd like
you would like to. Yeah. All right. So everybody. So John, only because you're kind of new to me talking about the show in this way, I wanted to talk to everybody that is involved with the show because I read like I Love Lucy books, and you didn't hear from. You only heard from Desi and Lucy, really, right. And the showrunner
wasn't on I Love Lucy.
No, John. But the point is, what I'm trying.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you know, let me see. I'm going to put you at ease first. There's been a lot of requests for you, and I asked you to come on, and you said, right, you swore at me, and you said I'm not on Instagram, and I'll never come on your show. And then a year went by, and I said, come on, John, all these fans are requesting, and he's like, well, that's their problem. And then recently, you came on Instagram, and you're accepting that the computer is here to stay.
Yeah.
Etc.
So my rotary phone.
Yeah. So then, John, what I want to talk about, because this is what I used to do, we'll get into Raymond episodes, but the thing I want to put you at ease about is when I was talking to Lisa Helfrich and all these other people they go, I don't remember anything. And then it comes back to them, because your friend Ray Romano. Sometimes he's like, I don't even know what, then we have to go, you played Ray, right? You were the So don't worry about that, because the one advantage that you have is having been there at ground zero. The advantage the fans have is they've seen every episode of yours hundreds of times. So they will tell you what you did. All right, let me wave to some of these. So let's solve this mystery. Oh, Leo brought it up right away. Let's solve this mystery, and then we're going to go back to the beginning of how you end up acting, etc. But the first season of Raymond, you play a cable guy.
That's right. Yes.
And
I remember it was late in the season, and I was so happy for Ray, for the show was doing well. And then I got a phone call, and Ray said, "Hey, you want to do the show? It's a cable guy." I said, "All right." I said, "Of course. So what do you think? I don't want to be on your show." I just held out for more money.
So then you come. So let me go back just to fill in for some of the people. And then we're going to go back to the beginning of your stand-up career. You're a really, really close friend of Ray's, and you were already out in Los Angeles acting. So when I started, so for people who don't necessarily know everything there is to know, from the outside, some people go, "Oh, I guess Phil Rosenthal's wife, he said to her, do you want to act? Do you want to try acting? Oh, sure, I'll try. I'll say to my friend Jon Manfrellotti, do you want to try acting?" Well, you had already been on. What had you appeared in already? Yeah.
I had already done an NYPD Blue. I had done a Law and Order, a couple of pilots in New York City before I moved out. So, and I studied acting in New York during the day while I did stand-up at night. So I kind of knew, I did a lot of theater, Yale repertory. So I kind of knew my way a little bit around acting. Well, it's an interesting circumstance with Gianni, though. Should we jump ahead?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think in season 1, Kevin James was playing his friend, and Dave Attell, another brilliant comic. And then Kevin got a deal and he left, and then Attell got sick or something. So I kind of by fault said, "All right, I'm the next guy up." It's like a football team. These guys are hurt. You better step in. And Gianni was just a great gift. They wrote such great wisecracks to me. I mean, it was great. Easy.
Well, I think part of that is that is your personality in many ways. And I'll just say the first time I met you, I was playing on the improv softball. You probably don't remember this. I was playing on the improv softball team. You were already a guy that I heard about who was acting in LA, and that already seemed like a huge success when you're just starting out in stand-up comedy. For someone to even be on a TV show was like, oh my God, it's like Marlon Brando. So I'm at a softball game, and you played softball. You're a big baseball fan, and played softball on the improv team, but you were just coming back visiting, and I'm walking in the field, and you go, "Hey, let me see your mitt." And I hand you my mitt, and then you take my baseball mitt, and you throw it on the ground and walk away.
One of the best jokes. Been doing that joke since 2nd grade.
And it worked because it's just such. It's an annoying move, but that was my introduction to you. But I bring it up because that's your personality, and that's what comes out in Johnny, and that's what we were writing for.
Well, that was the big epiphany I had when stand-up comedy broke. One day I said to myself, "Well, wait a minute. I can get paid for what I did in the back of the classroom. This is too good to be true." You know what I mean? I was the biggest wise guy in class. So the comedy boom came along at the perfect time. Time.
Let's talk, John. Let's go back to the beginning, because later we're going to talk about what was your favorite episode you were in, because I posted and so many comments. There's a lot more than I thought, and you did so many episodes that you forget. You're like, "Oh yeah, you were in that one and that one and that one."
I never remember all the episodes I was in.
Well, when I look at the list, I go, "Okay," and then I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, Ray and I wrote Jealous Robert together." Right. So obviously you'll say that's your favorite episode, or we'll conclude all right. Now, so let's go back to the beginning, John.
All right.
When is your first inkling to even perform or do stand-up?
Well, I was working for the airlines, and there was a comic I met, and we were in an acting class together in Miami. It was Al Romero. I don't know if you out know him.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, you're pretty funny. Why don't you try stand-up?" So I went one night to the comic strip in Fort Lauderdale. It was an open mic. And I went on stage and I bombed so bad that I had like an out of body experience. I mean, it was it was hell. But when I got off stage, I said, look, I know I'm funnier than that. So I just stuck with it, and I started like writing jokes and going up there and doing the jokes, and they would all bomb. And one night I was on like 1 a.m. There were 2 people in the audience. And when they stopped making out, the guy, he yelled, "You suck." So I said to him, I go, you know what? You're right. I do suck. But if you yell it out again, I'm going to break that candle over your head, because I was so frustrated. And that got the biggest laugh. Okay, wait a minute. I think I'm starting to see the light here. It's funny, you do stand up and you work on it and you work on it, you go full circle. And when you're where you want to be, you realize, oh, I'm myself. I'm myself. It's but you have to go through all that crap to become yourself.
And that's what you would tell somebody that's just starting out, but it still takes stage time to get there.
Oh, yeah. You can't do stand up in a mirror with a brush in your hand. You got to get out there and feel the pain, and there's no other way.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get lucky and they're funny right away. But to me, I think it takes 3 years before you even know what you're doing, and 5 years to get good. And after 10 years, you can handle anything,
Yeah.
A bottle thrown at me, so.
Well, we'll get back to that a little bit. Let me just, because I don't want to, what happens is people comment, and when we repost this, they go away. So I want to remember. So Fran wrote, "I still have a crush." Yep. John, take it easy. I saw you open for Ray and Brad in Vegas. Julie says that. But Julie, how was John opening for Ray and Brad in Vegas?
Right,
yeah. Hey, so then John, okay, a lot of hearts there, John. So that's a good sign. So, and for those of you that aren't, Ray does appearances in Vegas occasionally, like once every 3 months or something in a certain period.
4 to 6 times a year.
So when is that next gig?
The next one is December 16 and 17.
Okay, in Vegas. Okay,
before Christmas.
Great. And you'll be there with Raymond and
David Spade.
Or is it Brian Regan then?
No, Brian's not till next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
the last one with David Spade.
So now you've started doing stand-up. You've gotten past bombing. You've insulted somebody. And I'll just say this. We did a benefit. John did a benefit, myself and Ray and a bunch of other comedians, Kevin James, for Ray's acting teacher who died unexpectedly, acting coach on Raymond. And John went up and was so mean and so fantastic. The audience absolutely loved him so much. And you're watching this going, okay, you are insulting these people and they can't get enough of it. But
it's funny. The angry, and I'm using the air quotes, which I hate to do, but the more angry I seemed on stage, the harder they laughed. But I don't know how I did it. They always knew I was kidding. Even if I was being really mean, there was an underlying vibe there where they knew I was kidding. Bill Grunfest described my act one time, the best I've ever heard. He said, "Your act is like being beaten with a Nerf bat." And that's pretty much what I did. I would just pound them, but nobody got hurt. It was all fun.
Yeah. So here, which works, and
it takes a long time to get to be able to do. By the way.
And what wouldn't work is if Ray was doing that, because that's not who Ray is.
That's right. That's right. But not just. I've seen comedians who they go on stage and they do a joke, and the audience doesn't laugh, and they start attacking. But you could tell there's a meanness to that attacking because you're not laughing at my jokes. You know what I mean? Where I didn't care almost that they didn't laugh at my jokes. You know what I mean? And that energy somehow came out.
Yeah. So then you're starting in Florida, right?
Yeah, because I had just been laid off from Air Florida, which is
So I think this is worth people that know you from the show will be surprised to hear that you were a flight attendant on an airlines.
Yes, sir, I was. I was
So
a flight attendant.
so when people when people
I know what they're thinking, and they're wrong.
this is the friendliest, most service-oriented guy I can imagine. Of
Yeah.
course, he's a natural
People
fit.
loved me on the plane. Are you kidding me?
So then now Florida, and this for those people, because we have people in Australia and the UK and India, Florida is not the mecca of stand-up. You either have to go to New York or Los Angeles, and you end up going to New York.
Yes.
But
I made my bones in Florida, became the house MC. And after about 2 years, I said, okay, I'm ready to go back to New York and see if I could, do stand-up. The most nervous I've ever been in my entire career, and I've auditioned for big things and done stand-up opening for those guys in front of 5,000 people. The most nervous I ever was auditioning for the New York City Improv. And all I had to do was 3 minutes. Because it was the New York Improv, and somehow I made it through. And Silva, as soon as I got off, Silva, the owner of the New York Improv, as soon as I got off, she said, you passed. Which, from what I understand, she didn't do that all the time.
well, yeah. So for people to frame, that's huge. For people to get framed, first of all, I want to go back. You're from Long Island originally.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Long Island?
Right in the middle. I graduated from North Babylon High School. I mean, if you were to put a pin in Long Island, you'd hit North Babylon. It's right in the middle.
And so for those of you that don't know, sorry. So if Manhattan here, Long Island sticks out from east from Manhattan.
It's a long island.
Say that again.
It's a long island.
Right. And so just for I'm not offending people from Long Island, but John's attitude in Vermont would be a little bit like, oh, wait a minute. But on Long Island, in Manhattan, on Staten Island, in the 5 boroughs in Jersey, John, that personality.
Well, I will say this. The New York City audiences were a lot different from Long Island audiences. I grew up on Long Island. I've done stand-up all over the country and even out of the country. Did a tour of England and Scotland doing stand-up. In all my years and travels, Long Island were the worst audiences because all they did was talk there was a constant din of talking. I used to say, why are these people here? So it's funny that I grew up there, and maybe that toughened me up.
Yeah, well, yeah, and just for people watching, I know a lot of people don't know Seinfeld's TV show around the world. A lot of people do. Obviously, in the U.S., it was gigantic. But Seinfeld did a special, and he's done a couple of things. But he goes back to Long Island, and he does stand up at a place called Governor's. And the video is him coming off stage, and the audience is beyond disrespectful to him. And he comes off stage, and he goes, how big do you have to get for them to listen to you? Like, what? I'm the #1 TV star in the world in the US. Nope.
They don't listen. They don't. So I kind of stopped working Long Island early on,
Yeah.
I couldn't take that. You want people to listen. You want them to enjoy themselves. I don't want to battle them.
Well, for stand-up, since we're getting into it a little bit, for stand-up comedy, there's what John was saying, there's the initial years, like, get used to a rough crowd. But then there's a diminishing return where you're like, I can handle myself in the rough crowd, but they don't even want to hear my crafted jokes.
Exactly.
And I remember going the first time doing something like Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, where they're all there, and that's still Jersey. It's still not, the Midwest, but they're listening. And I remember thinking, oh, no one's trying to stop you.
I have a story about the Princeton Catch a Rising Star. I was working there once, and it was one of those crowds that would not stop talking and yelling out and yelling. So I was trying everything. And that day I had seen the movie Backdraft, right? That fireman movie or something.
Yep.
So they wouldn't stop talking. I went to the movies today. I saw a Backdraft, and some guy yells out, I don't give a shit. And I went, you know what? Kurt Russell dies at the end. And he does. it kind of ruined the movie for 200 people. You know, it's hilarious. But getting back to what you were saying about starting out in stand-up, what makes it so hard is you're not good when you start out, but you get all the hardest situations to learn. You're on late. There's 5 people. They're not listening. There's nothing ever easy about it. And then when you kind of get your chops, you actually have to learn how to be in front of a good audience. You know, I had to learn how to pace myself in front of a good audience. Like, well, wait, I'm getting laughs now. What happened? They weren't laughing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. By the way, and then we'll get to your acting and New York success. But in some of the crowds, there was a place called Grandpa's in Staten Island. There was a place called Toppers in Brooklyn. There were some rough crowds where it's so bad, you know, and I loved ad-libbing but there's a point where you're getting heckled so much and you're eviscerating the crowd and stuff, but it doesn't improve your stand-up.
Yeah, no, it doesn't help you. It doesn't.
Yeah. So now, Jon, you pass because there's a meeting point with Ray Romano, who's a young, you know, comedian who's having trouble getting into one of the clubs that you work at. But do you remember passing in, let's say, the Comedy Cellar, because you passed at the Improv? Oh, and sorry, what? Just to clarify for people, there's audition night, and the person that started the Improv were 2 people, Bud Friedman and his wife, Saunders Friedman, and she ended up having the New York City Club, and he started all the other clubs. And you would see an evening at the Improv, he would host it. But you would audition, and you would want to pass. So my first time ever on stage at a comedy club was the Improv in New York. And Silver, there were 4 people there, and Silver said to me, "Come back in 6 months." And I said, "Well, what about 2 months?" She's like, "Just come back." And I'd been on stage twice at that point.
That's why she said, "Come back in 6 months." Can I interrupt for a second? I'm feeling bad seeing these questions roll by.
Yeah. So yeah, let's scroll back. So what we can do is scroll back and let's see what they.
Well, I saw one that said, "How do you remember your jokes?" You know, when your heart and soul is in them and writing them, there's no way you forget them. You know, it's like you put so much time and effort into these jokes. There's no way. The only way you forget them is like on stage, the energy overwhelms you, and you have. But that's what you learn to control. But once you're in control, you never forget your jokes. They're always right there. You know?
Yeah. So the only problem, let's say, Jon might have in New York would be if you had to do 7 shows in one night, and you might be like, "Did I already tell that joke?"
Right.
That's a problem.
That's
because
right. By the way, my record in New York was 9.
9 shows in one night.
9 shows in one night.
Yeah.
Yes, we had that. I would ask the audience, "Did I just do that joke already?"
Yeah. So people, because during your setup, they're not laughing or they're just staring at you. So if you repeated the joke or you're hearing it the first time, they still have the same blank stare at you. So
Exactly.
And when Jon, because we're going to weave this into Ray again, when Jon says he did 9 shows, that doesn't mean he was at a comedy club and did 9 shows in one night. That means he had to drive or go from all these different comedy clubs. I have this one uptown, this one downtown, this one ever.
I've 4 different clubs that night: the Cellar, the Improv, it was the Cellar, Catch, Caroline's, and Stand Up New York.
Okay.
All over the city. Some subway, some cab. You know.
Yeah, and just to bring for people, I was in New York not that long ago with Ray, and Ray is doing a bunch of spots, and so is John Joseph, and he's walking by on the street. So I took pictures of them, but he didn't have time to. Neither of them had time to stop. And you're thinking, okay, at what point in your career can you stop for a second and say hello to an old friend?
I mean,
So
remember the days of getting out of the cab and the manager of the Improv is holding the door open and you run from the cab to the stage.
yes.
Those were exciting, fun times.
Yeah. And what would you get paid, for example, for one spot at the Improv?
On the weekend, it was like $30 or $40. And during the week, it was like 15 or 20, right?
Okay, yeah.
Ella was 60 on the weekend.
I do remember it was $8 when you were you would get $8.
Wow.
In some, yeah. So now, Johnny, let me scroll through any questions.
Yeah.
Do you do any stand-up in New York City? Wish I'd known you were in the UK. John was there. How did you get on over here? So meaning, how did you do in the UK?
It was an airplane that got me.
No, John, she's asking how you did on stage.
You know, I have to pat myself on the back because here I am in a foreign country, but I just relied, I pretty much junked all my material because I had to just deal with the crowd. You know what I mean? Some other comics that were on that show, I won't mention who they are, but they were breaking my heart because they stuck to their acts. And if it was specific to New York, or if it was specific to America, they would, and they stayed in it. They couldn't come out of it. You know, if I did a bit like, oh, I was doing a DC-10 and the guy did this or whatever, you know, I would jump right into the crowd stuff. And they loved it. They loved it, especially over there.
Yeah.
Especially in Scotland, which is the hard thing to do because these people speak English and I didn't understand a single word they said. They would come up to me after and go, and I go, thank you. You know?
If you, sorry, will you be performing, Barbara from Long Island, will you be performing in New York with Ray at all? Maybe someday.
Maybe someday soon. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know.
I don't know right now.
Yeah. Karen saying come out. By the way, just Chappelle was there. That's not who you're talking about who didn't do well. Dave Chappelle.
I loved him.
Yeah.
But each time, you know, I did that tour twice. Each time Chappelle started the tour, and each time a week in, he had to leave. First time he got Men in Tights or something.
Yeah.
Something else. His show, I think he got a show.
Yeah. So John, let's bring Ray Romano into the equation. You meet Ray the first time where?
Improv softball practice. I was sitting in the stands with another comic, Sue Kalinsky, and I'd never seen, and Ray was taking batting practice, and he was launching the ball. And I looked at Sue, and I said, looks like Silva finally passed somebody that can hit. Right? And I said, who is that guy? She said, oh, and Sue said, it's a new guy named Ray Romano. I said, all right. And then, you know, I was talking to him, and I finally saw his act a week or so later and thought he was funny. And once you meet Ray, you like him instantly. He's a, you know what I mean? And then one night, it's a Saturday night, I'm at the Comedy Cellar. And Manny, the owner, came running up to me. Remember Manny used to walk around the cellar with his glass of scotch in one hand and his little toy poodle in the other.
Yes.
Hand? I always knew Manny was drunk because he was petting the scotch and drinking the poodle. But he came up to me like crazy one night saying, we're short comics. I can't find anybody. Can you think of anybody? And I said, you know, there's a new guy at the Improv named Ray Romano. I go, he's really funny. He's a good guy. Call the Improv. And you know how when the universe comes together, Ray was there. I said, you know, I got on the phone. I said, Ray, get down here. They need a comic, you know. And he goes, really? I said, yeah. And don't bomb, you know. And I had to leave. I couldn't even watch a set with Sock. They had to run to one of the other clubs. But Ray passed, and Ray became, if not their favorite comic, then one of their favorite comics.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, if you watch Ray on Netflix has a special called Right Here Around the Corner. He shoots it at the club that John is talking about.
Yes.
And so if you go on Netflix and watch that special, so John basically got him into that club. And, you know, again, you're not the guy that's going to say this, but you know, a lot of people are like, well, I helped here, you know, but we know Ray would have succeeded no matter what happened. But still, it takes people to be on your side to say, you know, are you willing to take a look at this guy?
Well, that's what happened to me. My friend Lou DiMaggio and his wife, Pat Buckles, who was managing the Improv at the time, Lou said to Pat, take a look at this guy. Sue Kalinsky recommended me to the Cellar, and I got on and passed. So it's all, you know, you help each other out. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I think that just so I'll post some pictures. I have a picture of Jon Stewart, for those of you that aren't familiar, but Jon Stewart hosts the Daily Show, very well known in the U.S. I don't know if you guys in the U.K. or Australia know who Jon Stewart is at all.
Did they get the Daily Show? I'm over there. They must.
Don't know. I don't know. But there's a picture of Jon Stewart hugging John, and it looks like, you know, he's his long-lost brother. And that has to be 30 years ago, probably, that photo.
That was at the Caroline's, in the bar at Caroline's. And
yeah, Chris was...
It's like, get off of me. You know?
Well, it's funny. Oh, so Karen in the UK does know. Jon Stewart. So Karen, you know Jon Stewart from the Daily Show, or just, I mean, that's where he is, you know. But what's interesting is when you're starting out with his people, because I remember Jon Stewart being in the cellar and he goes, hey, I just got, you know, he's saying to me, we're in the hallway. He goes, I'm going to be on hosting my own show on MTV. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I remember being at Catch a Rising Star and going to visit where he went to high school, and he was just starting to become famous, and he was at a bar in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. All right, back. Okay, Susie says, yes, we love him in Australia. Great. John, okay, so usually I'll go back and answer, but let's nail some of these. Do you know what region of Italy your family is from?
Naples.
Naples.
Yes.
And have you ever been to?
I've been to Italy once when I was a flight attendant, but it was only, we had a layover in Milan. And
okay.
So I have to go back to Italy. I have to go to Naples. I've got to go to Pompeii. That's fascinates me, that place. You know.
To Pompeii. I've been. It's old, John. Right. It's old. It's not modern.
Yeah, but it's pretty fascinating. You know?
So, all right. Karen in Plymouth, England has not heard of Jon Stewart. Okay, interesting. All right. So now, John, you've passed at all these clubs. You've passed at the Improv, and then where do you start? Where's your first, like, I'm going to start? Oh, by the way, sorry. You play on the softball team, and I should mention that's how I got to know Ray, was playing on the Improv softball team and playing on his team, Nemo's, which is the name of the pizza place, which is the name of Ray's dog in real life.
Right.
So that's where I spent the most time with Ray. So now, how do you end up acting?
Okay, here. My goal always, because I never liked the road. I did it in the beginning because you have no choice. But my goal always was to get into as many clubs in the city as I can so that I can make enough money to stay there and then take acting classes. So that's what I did. So now I'm in the Improv, now I'm in the cellar. I don't know how it happened, but Caroline Hirsch, they saw me somewhere, and now I'm in Caroline's, right? And then the final thing was Catch a Rising Star, which was one of my all-time favorite clubs. It closed early, but that's the way it goes. So now I'm in 4 clubs, then 5 clubs when Stand Up New York opens. That's why I was doing 9 shows on, you know. So now I'm in enough clubs. So first I went to HB Studios in downtown, acting class. And my acting teacher was William Hickey from the movie, remember Prizzi's Honor?
Yep, the old man.
A bottle of cream soda. What's funny, there was always this much soda in it, and it was flat, and nobody drinks cream soda like this. You know, so I don't think it was cream soda. But his acting class was, no matter what you did in the scene, he would go, that was very good, but when I was in Prizzi's Honor. Okay, great. So then there was another acting teacher, Joanna Beckson, who had a thing where she had acting classes for stand-ups specifically. So I got into her class with a few other comics, and that's where we really rolled up our sleeves and got into acting. And then I just started auditioning for any off-Broadway play, any regional play, anything I can do to act. Because stand-up, you got to do it. You got to do it.
So let me just put a little bit of interesting intersections there. HB Studios is Herbert Berghoff Studios. There was a young actor, 2 young actors in that studio in 1962 or 3. One of them was Jeremy Stevens, who was a writer on Everest Raymond. The other was Peter Boyle.
That's right.
So they were both went to HB Studios, and I'll tell this. And maybe I did tell it on the Peter Boyle birthday thing about Jeremy Stevens taught Peter Boyle how to do his Marlon Brando impression. And there's a story which I'll tell when you're not a guest about that encounter. If I told it already, I'll tell it again because it's worth telling. But HB Studio.
I wish he wasn't a guest so I can hear that story.
It's just a respected acting studio. And what you're trying to do is, and I want to go back a little bit too for other stuff, you're trying to just get your chops so you can be good enough to go up for auditions. And when Jon said he didn't like the road. So the road is when you're a stand-up comedian and you're going all over the country and someone just asked a question about why was the pay so low? So the pay was low in New York because they could pay what they could afford, and there's tons of comedians. And the important thing is, if you're in New York, there's a chance of being seen by a talent agency. If Jon went on a cruise ship, he might earn $1,000, $2,000, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I have to work 4 weekends to get that in New York. But nobody will ever see him on a cruise ship.
That's right. They paid so little because they knew just what you're saying. You wanted to be on that stage. And if it wasn't that important, I wouldn't have been that nervous when I auditioned for the improv.
Yeah.
I wanted to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's the answer to why would you work for it? Because I know it was $8 when I started for these. I would get the bad spots, but it was $8, and it's like, okay, they knew if they didn't pay you, you'd still say, can I go on stage?
Exactly. And besides, you have to realize when you first start out as a comic, you suck, and it's not about money. Nobody's going to pay you for being bad. You know what I mean? And if you're really worried about $8, the hell with that, you're not going to be a comic, because all of us would have done it for free just to learn how to do it and get that stage time. The stage time was the money.
Yeah.
$8. That was so you can take a cab over to the next gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
The improv is, if I could tell a real quick story about Robin Williams. Now, improv, and Robin Williams would come in randomly. And all the and he, as soon as Robin Williams walked in, he was going on. Robin Williams wasn't waiting to go on. So all the comics would be in the back, going, oh God, am I going to have to follow Robin Williams? So the first few times it happened, it wasn't me. Then one day, Robin Williams is on. He's on about a half hour already, right? And Silva taps me on the shoulder and says, Jon, you're next, So I'm sitting there going, all right, Robin Williams is going crazy. He's goofing with the people. He's Robin Williams. He's killing. I said, if I go up on stage and I fool around with the crowd, they're going to go, who's he think he is, Robin Williams? But I said, but if I go on stage and just strictly stick to jokes, I'm not being me. So I said, I'd rather go up and do what I do and take my lumps if that's the case. So Robin Williams finishes, I walk up, and I just did a quick thing to try to break the ice. I went, now I know what the guy felt like backstage at the Ed Sullivan show when Ed Sullivan said, all right, it'll be the Beatles, then you. Right? So, and then broke the ice, and then I did my act like Robin Williams was never there and killed. And my confidence level jumped up from here to here and never went down again. It only kept going up. Because you say to myself, well, there you go. I followed Robin Williams. I did what the hell I wanted, and I killed. Yeah. So you don't get that experience on a cruise ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are vomiting from the buffet during your show.
That is an awesome story, because the nightmare for a comedian is exactly what, there is no worse person to follow than Robin Williams, because he's beloved. His energy level is 12 on a scale of 10.
And yeah. He wouldn't come in and do 10, 15 minutes. He'd come in and do 35, 40 minutes. You know what I mean? Which you sweated there for 40 minutes. Oh my God, this is going to be terrible. So that's why that night will always stick in my head.
Yeah. Oh. So Donnell, who's one of our biggest fans, says, I've been overpaying my MCs. I've been paying them cruise money. Well, I should add, Donnell, unless you own a club in New York City, you still, if you own a club, and I know I'm making a little bit of a joke here, but to do something what they call a corporate gig, anything pays more than the core New York City clubs. Everything else, the rules don't apply.
Also, Donnell, the MC is a really important part of the show because I MC'd for years, and that also built up my chops because you have to learn how to keep a rhythm going. Okay, he's done. You can't let energy drop. You have to keep it, and you have to get laughs each time. And sometimes they've seen you already up and down 10, 12 times. So it's keep paying them, Donnell.
So, and John's not looking for work, just to be clear.
Yeah. Where's your club, Donnell?
I think it's more for events. So, John, just because, and just for everybody, this is Tom Caltabano. I was a writer on Everyone's Raymond, and I'm talking to Jon Manfrellotti, who played Johnny. And we talked about favorite, because we're going to get to Everyone's Raymond, but you're acting, and then you get a part on Law and Order.
Law and Order, yes, early, like second or third season.
Okay.
With Paul Sorvino and the other guy, Chris Noth.
And now, John, are you moving to Los Angeles at this point?
No, not yet. Because I started auditioning for a lot of stuff. Then I did a pilot in New York that was shot in the Saturday Night Live studio, but it didn't go anywhere because it was terrible. And then I was put on tape for something on ABC, a pilot, and they flew me out to LA and I auditioned for the suits, didn't get it. But then that's when people saying, oh man, you should go to LA. And so I did. And you know what? I kind of almost didn't want to. And I remember a friend of mine, an actor, Mike Rispoli, really good actor. You've seen him in a million things. I remember him saying to me, you sure you want to go? Because you have a voice here. And I said, yeah, I'm starting to, blah, blah, blah. So then I go out to LA and then you realize, this is going to like a lot more vast than you thought it would. So just when I was ready to go, you know what, Mike was right. I'm going to go back to New York. That's when Ray called me about doing Everybody Loves Raymond. So, that's how things work.
And that's great, John. And that point, a lot of times actors are living, I was just talking to some young kids who were 9 kids in one apartment on bunk beds, and you have to keep your monthly nut low and you have to survive because it's feast or famine. And when you see on Raymond, when you would see, oh, we need the part of a vacuum cleaner salesperson. Oh, there's 70 pictures of women that could play. And that's just the first batch, and so now, only because I was there from the inside, Ray was there, Attell, Andy Kindler, Kevin was an unknown. He was a stand-up comedian. He gets a deal. He goes away. They loved Attell as a stand-up. I don't know, Ray loved Attell as a stand-up, and obviously you and Ray were very close, but the thinking was maybe Kevin would be, in on the series, but then Kevin goes away. So then Ray calls you. And when I've explained to people in the past, we're looking at stuff in hindsight now. The show was ready to be canceled. So at least John would have gotten one appearance on Ray's show that got canceled after, right? So it wasn't like, well, let's think about our master plan for Gianni before we cast him in this cable role. Now, when you're watching it, you're like, wait a minute, there's Johnny playing the cable guy.
Right. The cable.
Yeah.
You have to make the mental leap. Oh, I guess he became friends with the cable guy.
Well,
oh, boy, that cable guy, he's a good guy.
And Kevin James played a different character because Doug Heffernan didn't exist when Everyone's Raymond started.
Nope.
So he was.
Business is, everything's on the fly.
Yeah.
As soon as you start planning, you're finished.
Yeah.
Got to be open and ready for anything.
So then, John. Then John, I remember you did that, and I remember you were. I don't know if it might be too dirty to repeat, but do you remember you had a clipboard?
Oh yes. I don't know what's the.
You can do anything.
What's the what do they call the rating of this show?
Yeah, yeah. It's triple X, John. You can
Well,
say,
yeah, I had a clipboard, and I was supposed to show Ray, okay, here's your bill or whatever. So while Ray and them were doing their lines, I drew a penis. And then when when I turned the clipboard around, I said, "Here's your bill." Yeah, is that what you're talking about? Yes, that's my
yeah.
mentality. I never grew up.
Well, and so then when you were on, yes, it's a funny practical joke.
It's
But
very right. I'm reading that. If he's talking about stand-up, it's very stressful.
well, and I maybe important verbs. Maybe he's talking about the acting business as well.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So now whenever anybody watches the cable guy giving him the bill, they're gonna have that in their mind.
Exactly.
So John, then do you remember because we filmed at Hollywood Center Studios, which is where I Love Lucy was, the first 2 seasons of I Love Lucy.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we're right around the corner. So do you remember thinking, well, I hope I get another spot, or you're like, well, at least I did a guest spot?
I think I was, well, because it was the cable guy, I just said to myself, well, that was great. I got an episode of Ray's show. You know what I mean? That was pretty cool.
Right.
Cable guy is going to be a recurring character unless you got a crappy cable company.
Yes.
The thing I remember the most about my first episode was one day, it was like the second day I was there, standing by the craft service table, just trying not to get in the way. And Peter Boyle came over to me and said, "Hey, you're a friend of Ray's. You're a stand-up comic. Hey, that's a pretty tough thing to do. Come on in my dressing room. Let's sit down and talk." And I'm walking with Peter Boyle. I'm going, Peter Boyle just invited me into his dressing room. The greatest man you're ever going to meet, Peter Boyle. And there I am. And he was the night, and we got along, wonderfully for the rest of the show. So that's what I remember the most about the first episode.
Yeah.
Making sure I didn't forget any lines, and Peter being so nice to me.
Yeah, and your penis being accurate.
And it was pretty accurate.
Yeah. So and just to add to that, Peter Boyle was such a sweet person, and he lived in the same apartment complex that Ray and I lived the first season. So we would have dinner all the time with Peter, and it helps. It's weird because Peter's such an icon and such a hero, and then you meet him in person, and it's a little bit,
It was intimidating, but he was so disalarming and so nice, and he's the opposite of all those gruff characters, and
that he's played.
Frank.
So now, John, because we're going to get to your favorite episode, and like I said, you're going to have to come back because we're going to talk about episodes. We're going to talk about the Mets, which is a team that was on. It's okay, John.
Bring that up.
Yeah, for those of you who are unaware, the Mets is a New York baseball team, and baseball World Series is happening now. And I checked, and there's a team not in it, and that's the Mets. And the Mets were in first place. It's a very sad Mets fan type of story where they were in first place almost the whole year and then blew it. So
it's a real enjoyable situation, Tom.
So now,
Mets.
So John, when you get the call that, hey, we're thinking about making you Gianni.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do. I started thumbing through boat brochures. I remember somebody said something about the Super Bowl episode. Yeah, I remember thinking, holy crap, this is a recurring character. We're going to bring you back as a character, named Gianni. I think the name Gianni came, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I've been told, you were in the room, wasn't my first episode that they were going to write for that character, was like a week after Gianni Versace was shot?
That I don't remember.
That's what I thought someone said, and that name popped into the. Oh, it's Gianni. I don't know if
We'll have to do a forensics on when he was shot. That would surprise me because Johnny is such a common name, and we had a few Italians in the writers' room.
My thing was, I figured Johnny. My name's John. A lot of people call me Johnny. I thought Gianni was just a thing off of that.
Well, that's what I thought. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
So Karen is asking, are you like Gianni at all? And this can get into our favorite and least favorite episodes, even though all of your episodes are really good. And I've tried to watch as many again as possible. But let me answer from the outside. John doesn't smell.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, when we were writing, because I was watching the beginning of, I just watched it with you, Kevin J. Oh, the Bad Moon Rising episode, right? And I think it was Bad Moon Rising. But your personality is very similar because we knew who you were as a person, so we're writing lines for you as you know.
I've always been a chop-busting New York sarcastic ball buster, but in a funny way, not a likable way. That's kind of what Gianni was. You know, that they knew me kind of as that, so it was kind of easy to write for Gianni in a way.
Well,
when Peter took ill there for a while and missed a couple of episodes, that's why they slid me in, because Gianni had that attitude almost like Frank. Some of the lines they wrote for Frank, Peter Boyle's character, worked for Gianni because they were both chop busters. You know what I mean?
Well, can I tell you, in the writer's room, we always had this rule where no matter what you wrote for Frank and Marie, you always had a last line for Frank because he had these funny things. And it was the same with you because it's a short quip, you know, a sharp, short quip, you know?
Exactly.
So here's somebody writing, Susie, yes. Is Deborah aware of how she's coming off to other people? We love that line. Okay. Perfect name for that character. Yes. Are you like Johnny? Yes. Oh, sorry. Some Dodger fans. We'll take that. So just so people know, the Mets and Dodgers, the Dodgers were, I think, 24 games in first place. The second place team was 24 games behind, and the Dodgers also lost immediately. So for the pain is palpable. And John mentioned briefly, he's also a Jets fan. So we're all very empathetic for John. For those of you that don't know, who live in the UK or Australia or whatever, the Jets is a professional American football team that has broken the hearts of all Jets fans for 50 years.
Let me put it to the UK people this way. If the Jets were in the soccer league, they would have been kicked out of the Premier League or whatever it is. You know, they have that thing where if you suck, you get down to the minors. If there was a minor league NFL league, the Jets would have been kicked to that one.
Yes, a heartbreaking. So now, John, all of a sudden, they're like, John, come on, you're going to be in a next episode, right? And what was that first episode out of the gate? Do you remember? As Johnny?
Was it The Letter, or was that The Cable Guy?
Well, no, The Cable Guy is the game, and The Letter.
The Letter was
the Letter is season 2.
Yeah, and that was the first Gianni.
Yeah. Oh, great. And that, by the way, for those who don't remember, The Letter started with a Tupperware party, and Marie is going to write a letter, and that's one of the first episodes that we ever had where the scene of Frank wanting to read the letter and whatever, that was such a great scene that I remember the first time getting like goosebumps because the audience was blown away by how good that scene was. You know, filming another thing. Do you play golf, John? I'm going back to a specific question. A couple of that.
I played golf for many, many, many years. 30 years I played golf, but then I hurt my shoulder and then I hurt my other shoulder. So now I don't play golf anymore. But Phil Mickelson told me I had a fundamentally sound golf swing.
Oh.
That made me feel pretty good. Because one time Ray and I played golf with Phil. As a matter of fact, we played with Phil a couple of times. But he told me I had a fundamentally sound golf swing, which really...
Yeah. Phil Mickelson at one point, the number 1 rated golfer, right? You know, he and Tiger would get...
It made me so happy that the very next shot, I hit a tree. Cart.
James Bond North America says sex injury. Come on, Ray. She's your wife. Okay, great quotes here.
I should have been on top.
Yeah. In the futon episode, how they met, when Deborah...
episode.
Oh, that's the reveal. I don't have to do a drum roll.
My favorite episode I was in was how they met. The Flash.
How They Met, John, is your favorite episode.
Yeah.
So in the futon episode, How They Met, when Deborah tried to make it easy for Ray and he had no game, and you say, "Oh my God, hilarious." That's my favorite line.
It's funny that you bring that up, because almost like the Robin Williams thing,
Yeah.
that's where I felt so comfortable to try things. You know, in the first couple of episodes as Gianni, you just want to deliver what they wrote and deliver it the best way you can.
Right.
And the lines were funny anyway, so you didn't have to worry about a laugh. But yes, Ray is trying to, hit on Deborah, and he's doing a terrible job. And my line was, "Oh my God." And the first couple of times I would go, "Oh my God, oh my God." And then one day, and I'll never forget, it was the network rehearsal. So everybody was there. And instead of just going, "Oh my God," I went like this. I went, "Oh my God." That's all I did. And it got the biggest laugh. And then I remember Doris coming up to me afterwards and saying, "That was great." And so again, it was almost like the Robin Williams moment, where I wasn't afraid to loosen up and try a little and show a little stuff. But yeah,
Well,
that was.
well, we'll talk, John, because we're almost out of time already.
Wow, you're kidding me.
No, we've only gotten to your favorite episode, Futon. So as the Futon delivery guy, and just so people know, Ray was a Futon delivery guy in real life, and we'll talk more about that. And his friend in real life is Claude Chu. And so I just found a picture of Peter and Claude and Ray, which I will post. So now, John, now you're in, by the way, and you're feeling like, oh, I love this. You have potentially a little bit of rent money, but also you're hoping that they keep using you, which we end up doing because, you were great on the show. And do you remember, just because people are asking, do you remember your first encounters with Brad or Doris?
Well, Brad was just overwhelmingly funny. You know what I mean? So I was like almost intimidated by Brad in the beginning.
Yeah.
But in a couple of times in rehearsal, where I started, cracking up with him and busting his chops, and then we became fast friends. And Brad's one of the funniest guys.
Yeah.
Doris, that wasn't my first encounter with Doris, but she was very supportive of me, and she would always say, "You're doing a good job, excellent." But then it was after we filmed the How They Met episode. Yeah. She came up to me after the taping and said, "You have really registered." I remember that, and it just made me feel so good,
Yeah. Sorry. Here's a question. That's funny. A lot. They're quoting a lot of your lines.
Okay, good. I can't remember it.
Sorry, I have to clear my throat. Hold on. I have to use my special Phil mug.
Guy, I might as well drink too.
Mm-hmm. Right, but mine isn't vodka, John. So, by the way, Phil has a new book out, and his series, Somebody Feed Phil. I think it's a New York Times bestseller already, so, which is good. So, John, because you're going to have to come back again. So people are mentioning. Say again.
I'd love to.
Yes, people are giving you a lot of hearts. Okay, it's not the Super Bowl. Leo saying the Super Bowl wasn't.
Well,
so
answer that. It says, "So John, you did not audition for ELR." I did audition as the brother, Robert, Brad's role, and I didn't get it, but not for Gianni.
Yeah, and did Ray know you were auditioning for Brad's role?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I know that. To be honest, even though you're great as Gianni, it would have been you're too.
Even I didn't think I was right for the brother.
Yeah.
Something about Brad towering over Ray and all that kind of stuff. And being so big and being so vulnerable, I think that's what made. And Brad was just the perfect choice.
Yeah. But by the way, I think this is an interesting thing, John. I see you're leaning forward to read the comments.
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they say they don't like an episode, I'm going to bring up The Annoying Kid, which you weren't in, but it's because it's executed so well. The kid's really annoying. You know what I mean? And so in the Super Bowl episode, some people have a problem with Deborah, you know, the way she acts, because they love you in that episode. And so there's a problem in a good way. They're addressing boy, this sounds so bad, but the efficacy of the character being brought forth. You know, the annoying kid is really annoying. You're supposed to hate watching the annoying kid, you know? And so, yeah. And so that's what
the kid's not annoying.
Right. Exactly. And you have to have a lot of conflict in any episode to make it funny. So, but that for say again,
I read for the kid.
The beginning, though, the beginning of that Super Bowl episode, for those of you that haven't watched it, is such a perfect moment of conflict, because you play it perfectly as being, it's a life-changing, happy event. And then it's just Ray. It's literally Ray just gets punched. As soon as you leave, it's just Frank, Robert, then Marie, and then Pat, and then Doris. And it's like this perfect episode where, you know,
Fun one.
Yeah. And so then
weren't Ray and I, we were supposed to be eating ice cream cones. Was that episode?
Yes.
And I remember during one take where I take a big thing and it's cold mashed potatoes, not ice cream, you know, because ice cream would melt under the lights.
Yeah.
I don't know how I kept the face from going, you know. It was ice cream with chalk. I mean, mashed potatoes with chocolate syrup on it.
Yeah. This is a funny comment. There are a few episodes of ELR I don't care for, but there are seasons of Friends I don't like.
Okay.
Well, that's, yeah. You. By the way, what's funny is, I mean, that's why you do different shows, etc. But what's funny is you have people who love Seinfeld, and then people who can't even watch an episode of Seinfeld, and people who love, you know, who would never watch Everose Raymond. So you never know. But I will say,
never know.
For consistency, Everose Raymond, for writing, it stayed consistent.
Unbelievably consistent.
Yeah, well, it's very seldom that you have most of the same writers from beginning to end. That's very rare. And Phil, obviously, and Ray guiding it all. So, John, before we wrap it up this time, there's something that I had never heard of, but you just started on it, and you know this as well as I do. When I have visitors here and they're like, "Hey, do you think we could visit John?" You probably don't remember, but I brought my friend's sons to visit you at your house.
We were jamming.
What's that?
Playing the guitar. Right?
Playing guitar, yeah. So you're on something called Cameo, and what Cameo is for people watching, and usually it's a brilliant idea. So in the old days, you would have to, maybe I knew John, so I'd be like, John, do me a favor. Can you leave an angry voicemail message on my friend's voicemail, or can you talk to my friend's mother? But now Cameo allows you to go onto the Cameo site. I think there's probably going to be a link on your Instagram, but allows you to go, hey, can you give a birthday message to, you know, my friend, or a wedding thing or whatever. And so, and I know you just joined it, but it brings people happiness to facilitate it, because you know, there's you know, Brad is on there, you know, there's a lot of people, and what you don't realize as someone who's been in someone's home for 27 years is it's just such joy that you're bringing to people. So yeah, I will check you out on Cameo.
All right, yeah, check me out on Cameo. Right?
Yeah.
No porn.
Yeah. Oh, here's someone. I got a cameo from Brad Garrett for Christmas. Look at that. That's great. Oh, that's great. All right, let's answer a few more questions, John. And
You don't have to smell me anymore.
Yeah. I watch Raymond when I need to laugh, and I'm married to an Italian. Nice. I saw you in Vegas a few years ago with Ray and Kevin James. Great.
Funny?
No one has said you're funny yet. That's interesting. ELR just got better as it went along. Every season was better than the one before. Thank you, Karen. I love all the Yes, I love all. Gianni was also in King of Queens. Oh, John,
I was looking at the question about men of a certain age. We'll have to hit that next time.
Okay, so
it went by fast. Something about the character.
yeah. We'll screen once. We'll go back and we'll answer in depth the next time you visit. But when you were in King of Queens, were you playing the same character?
You know what was so weird about that? They made a big deal about crossing Gianni over to King of Queens. Lawyers had to get involved, and they did. And when I went over to do the episode, they made the character like some completely different guy. Suddenly, I'm like some mook wearing the Italian horn, and I'm talking like this, and it was nothing like Gianni Raymond was grounded in sort of reality.
Yeah.
Cartoon. So I don't know what the big deal was, but it was fun. I did 2 episodes of that. The second one, I wasn't even Gianni. I was just some guy in a bar. It was yeah.
That's funny.
Tom Hertz was running it then.
Okay.
And he goes, "Come down here. I'll give you a day's work." And I literally ran down there, and it was a bar scene, and I don't know. I had one.
Okay. Lisa Kay wants a cameo. Yeah, just go to his cameo. But John,
Lisa,
take it easy on the people. Don't just be nice.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, just be nice.
More than you bargained for.
Yeah, it is great for Christmas, and it is great. Yeah.
What was Johnny's last name on the show? That's a good one.
I don't know that we ever established that.
There was never a last name. Make one up.
All right. Yeah. Submit your options for John's name, and we'll announce it the next time he's back. Here's the winner. All right. The Contractor was my favorite Gianni. Thank you, Donnell. The Contractor was your favorite. I don't know why I'm saying thank you, because I didn't write it and I wasn't in it. But John, John shined in that. Now, next time you're here, John, let's talk about The Contractor. Let's talk about the Jealous Robert, which I wrote with Ray.
I loved you with Amy right there. And I remember Monica saying to me, "I wish they would have done more than one episode of us, kind of." And I said, "Yeah, me too." But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, that when Ray and I wrote Jealous Robert, first of all, it took us like 4 months to write it, which is longer than normal. But we thought, what a great trigger, and to have Marie and Deborah join forces is just diabolical.
That was
great. And I will say this, I've mentioned this in the past. I think I mentioned this once. I saw Tim Conway at the Emmys, and he said, I said, "Oh, I wrote on Everest Raymond," and I'd written a sketch for him on the Emmys, and he did it much better than we had written it. He was awesome. And he goes, "I saw an episode of Raymond, and it was just the perfect scene. Ray gets elbowed after," and I said, "Oh, that's Jealous Robert," which was that is a great episode.
I know there were a lot of great episodes on that show.
Here, Teresa from Chicago says, "Jealous Robert, I know every line." Yeah, wow. we get a lot of little Giannis in there.
Don, you were great today. Thanks for coming on. Please come back. You got it, Leo.
That's in your handwriting, John. Let me see. Yeah. All right. Last thoughts, John, and we'll do a post-show briefing. And for those of you watching, I posted a screen grab of all of the episodes that John did, but I have a lot more episodes of John in those episodes. And somebody mentioned on the table read, there's John is laughing. And somebody said in that table read photo, someone said, "Wow, Brad Garrett does not look happy." I will post the next photo where he's making one of the funniest faces I've ever captured in 9 years. And so I will post that. So next time, John, we'll talk more about specific episodes. We'll talk about what it was like to sit with the 69 Mets and hang out with them, right? What was it like the first time you got noticed from being on Everest Raymond?
I used to go back to New York for a visit. I couldn't believe it, how they loved Gianni.
Well,
in LA, you can walk down the street, it doesn't matter, nobody.
Well, yeah, you could bump into Brad Pitt and excuse me, get out of my way. But John, we'll talk about it more. But the one thing that I've noticed is in show business, there's nothing that gets you more awareness than a hit sitcom.
Yep.
because nothing else, you don't watch a drama 20 times a week. You just don't watch it over and over again. But a sitcom, so the sitcom will give you that awareness. Yeah. All right, Jon, awesome. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see Jon next time. Keep your questions coming. I'll post pictures, many more pictures of Jon on the set and off the set. And you know what I also just found that I'm going to post that I usually don't post? It's you, Ray Romano, Phil Rosenthal, laughing at a dinner at Phil's house. And you guys are, it looks like the greatest moment ever. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Long Island people, Long Island watchers, Australia, the United Kingdom, India, all these other points. All right. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you, everybody.